Before I give you the microphone, just a quick question or precision on when you were saying one implementation has to be open source. One implementation of what has to be open source in the definition?
Of a standard. Since we cannot, right. If we cannot at the moment rely on established standards, we will define as being a standard something that is being deployed on multiple cloud and as a reference implementation.
That makes it very clear.
Yeah, just to come back on probably on one other area where Stallman may have some thoughts is about the trust and the security. I mean, I fully agree on this interoperability and so on. And for our customers, it's more, let's say, it comes down to a cost issue somewhere. If your provider is not good at all or too expensive and so on, you can switch. There is another question which is very present in the mind of the customers, is the trust issue. Can I trust my cloud provider? And how the cloud provider can prove that he's trustworthy. And it's at many levels. I mean, the first thing is when you take a predefined VM, an AMI on Amazon and so on, how do you know there is no virus, no backdoor and so on? Well, today you can't. Same thing also from the cloud provider. How do you know that the admins from the cloud provider don't have access to your data?
Well, in fact, you don't.
Yeah, you don't know. Take an example, Dropbox. Dropbox recently recognized that admins do have access to your personal data. It's not encrypted. So there is also this trust question, and it depends on the criticity of what you're putting. And I think also part of the thing of Stallman's is about open source. When you run it on your own PC, you've built yourself and so on, you can be 100% sure of what's running on it. When it's in the cloud, you have to trust somebody. And how do you build this trust?
Yeah, I agree, because the cloud computing population of users is not the users that Stallman's and the open source community has in mind, which are some sort of users, developers, or users informed that are able to operate. One of the advantages and the way cloud computing is presented is that precisely it abstracts users from all the worries, technical worries, and this is exactly, I think, the contrary to the adverse population that Stallman's addressing. But to follow up on what you just said, when we talked about, this brings up the whole question of the governance of the cloud platform at large. And in your presentation, you mentioned public clouds, and you could, again, you could question the putting the adjective open in front of cloud computing, but also you could criticize or argue or wonder why you would put public in front of cloud. And I'd be interested in hearing maybe from our friend from Peking University and maybe from you, especially in the context that you've just outlined very quickly of the government-sponsored cloud computing initiative, which I still have to grill you on to understand exactly what it's supposed to do and what is its objective in terms of being built. What differentiates a public cloud from cloud computing or an open cloud at large? Is open cloud a prerequisite to be a public cloud, or is public cloud a prerequisite to be open? Maybe you could share your thoughts about that. Maybe you want to start?
Sure.
Me too.
But before I answer this question, I would like to propose some general opinions I have.
Please do.
Okay, thank you. Last year, when I was in the panel, the seminar panel about cloud computing, I remember I said I don't like cloud computing because I never understood what is exactly cloud computing compared to the past technologies. First, I did not understand what cloud was trying to address in the technical era, because it looks like all kinds of technologies come from the past. Maybe, for example, for the big data center, we might require serious security or serious trustworthiness issues. But in the past, we still address this kind of issues. That's the first. Second, I don't understand what cloud computing is addressed in the market. For example, for Amazon and Google, I understand why they try to do cloud computing, because they have the strategies, they have the market. And IBM is trying to do cloud computing because they try to sell the architecture, they try to sell solution. I don't understand why open source community to do, what kind of technical questions we try to address, what kind of market value we try to bring. That's basically my two questions for everybody in the open source community.
It's a bit of a radical one, but yeah.
Okay. Now. Come to your question. Actually, I am building a public data source. I name it as a cloud of data repository. That's for research.
All right.
And we have been trying very hard to extract data and provide service for software engineering scholars. Okay? I think that's a different motivation between the academic and the market people.
And the market people.
Yes. And that's a kind of things, for example, the government could do, the university could do. And all kinds of people could benefit from that. But from the organizations, from the commercial organization perspective, I think that's a different story. The first question is, what could we benefit from the data center we could provide?
So maybe, thank you very much. This is a very interesting position, I believe, because it ties down a number of questions in terms also of who are the community of users the data center and the cloud platform addresses. We heard about grid computing 10 years ago. We heard about simulation centers for large academic research in the past. Are these related to cloud computing? Is there anything that should be exported from that world of research that Minghui was describing to the commercial world? Does it make sense to do it in an open source kind of principled way or not? I mean, maybe some of the panelists can take on those questions.
Okay, to get back on open cloud and is it a prerequisite to public cloud or whatever? Yes, we consider in OW2 that open cloud is, let's say, the basic for any cloud, might it be public or private or hybrid and things like that. And because it's a way to bring some trust. I mean, it's a way to reassure people that the bricks, the components that are used are well known, can be audited and things like that, and enhanced in that way. And secondly, it brings also the idea, and to get back to, and this is why open source is very important, and communities are very important in building that, because it's a kind of technological citizenship for what we bring. And this brings to another type of cloud, which is what is called, from NIST, that you don't like, it's called a community cloud. That means that you can have some forms of communities. Okay, you refer to HPC, or we can refer to NGOs or whatever.
Like the research cloud that.
Or research cloud, like Grid thought about it. That may be categorized by their needs and their will to share some information, part of that. And in that case, it's really important to have some, I would say, technology that can enable communities to join. For instance, in Compatible One, we're working on this notion of federation. That means that we can mix private and public and things like that within a circle of users that will use and share the same capacities, the same resources and things like that. And we use the notion of a broker to manage all that. That's one point which is interesting. And in that case, that means that some communities, for instance, healthcare, would need some very specific compute services for radiography or imaging and things like that. And on the other way, they would also run some classical infrastructure for managing the patients, files and stuff like that. So in that case, we have to think ahead on just this kind of idea of public cloud, which are built in silos, and more distributed vision as we brought with open systems and open source. So this is my point on the topic.
Yeah, I fully agree on that. I don't hate NIST. I don't like debating on their definition. That's a different story. But I truly believe that this idea of community cloud is really important. We do that already on the healthcare market because of regulation reasons and so on. But I think more and more we will see some, let's say, banking clouds or whatever. So yes, indeed, it's important to have technology that we can leverage on a complete scale from wide range public clouds with hundreds of thousands of servers to some smaller ones with more security, more trust, and whatsoever. Yeah.
Is it only a question of size or security principles, or is it a question of governance? Because
both.
It seems to me that there is a scope between, I don't see too many examples actually, to tell you the truth, but of really community-owned and community-regulated clouds, like maybe the researchers' cloud that was mentioned earlier, where the population of users is also the providers of the services to other users. Or you could argue that the BitTorrent RIP, by the way, network of file sharing was, a very, very preliminary version of a community-owned cloud computing delivering services of, media serving. And at the other hand, you have, what you've just mentioned with the Andromeda project, which seems to be some sort of a, nation-owned, government-owned architecture to, in particular, run some of the, defense-related applications that needs power and do.
I have to check the definition. For me, community is cloud for communities. It's not necessarily community-owned cloud. It's a different thing. I mean.
But it can be.
It can be, but it's not a necessity. I mean, you have a cloud, and we have a cloud for healthcare. It's not owned by the healthcare community, but we invested on that.
This is why the definition is slightly different.
No, but it's only about cutting pieces in the cloud and saying there is one area of cloud which is for one community, and there is a critical mass, a scale effect. But even when we talk about private cloud, when you're a big company, you have something like 10,000 servers inside your own company. You're already in a good area in the curve of the cost, where it makes sense to have a private cloud when you have 10,000 servers. So I would say this is roughly an area where the cost begins to be okay.
Maybe
I'd like to come back to the question that was asked. What is making sense in the cloud? Why are we going for the cloud? And to answer that question, we've got to remember that what we're doing is implementing a vision that was expressed in the 1960s in the form of utility computing, giving unlimited access to unlimited power in computing resources.
But by the way, if I can just mention this, I should tell everyone that last month John McCarthy, who was one of the big visionary of that utility services, passed away.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he was 83 or 84, so that goes way back to the 60s and the post-war.
Utility computing was his creation at the time.